Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Relix, and today we're going to go over, or review I should say, episode 9 of season 7 for My Hero Academia. Again, if you guys have been with us, you guys know the drill. This is a full spoilers video, so if you guys have not watched this episode, or you don't want to be spoiled about anything that's to come, please do not watch this. This is your warning. Moving ahead, as always, here is our hero of the episode. It's a close one, technically. Obviously, if you guys saw the episode, there was a lot that went on in this episode. A lot of things, a lot of information, and a lot of characters making appearances. So I will get into that later, but obviously let's start with the hero. Hawks is the hero by a slight edge over, as you guys probably saw from the thumbnail as well, Earphone Jack. If you guys watch the episode, you know why. And like I said, we'll discuss that later. But Hawks definitely showed up in this episode. He was only in half of it, of course. You know, the episode definitely shifted from place to place, but he definitely showed off his skills, his quirks, and all of his talents that we know him to do. And I thought he executed his performance very well. And even though technically in the end it didn't, all his efforts was kind of for naught, he still showed up and did a really good thing. And here we are, I'm just going to say it, he did a really good job protecting Earphone Jack and Tsukuyomi from All For One's final attack. So we'll see what happens there. But like I said, we'll get into that later. But the episode starts off with a recap of Shoto, Todoroki, and going against Dabi, his brother. It literally just replayed the exact final scene from last episode, and then went into the opening credits. But once we came back, we get to see Burnin. She's alive, standing up. In fact, it almost looked like all of the heroes in this area survived. Like, a little bit of inconsistency, like I've mentioned in the past episodes, a little bit inconsistency and a little bit of a plot convenience per se, because as we saw in the previous episodes, the city is burning and the heat is so hot that even some of the other heroes can't even get close to Dabi, and yet here they are right in proximity and they're perfectly fine. So I'm a little conflicted about that, just a little bit. Overall though, I'm not going to make a big deal about it anymore. So Burnin's fine. She gets up and she sees what's happened. She sees that Dabi's been defeated. As we can see here, he does fall off of Shoto's shoulder and onto the ground. As we can see, he's completely defeated. His body's starting to freeze up. Yes, he has burn marks all over. Surprisingly, his hair is still intact. I kind of find that odd, considering that we've seen in the past that he did burn his entire body up, and his hair included. So I don't know, maybe his hair is special. I don't know. But he is, I guess, officially defeated as of this moment, and therefore, this area is now more or less secured, and Burnin does, have the chance to relay the information to the HQ where where All Might and the police are, basically giving out orders and overseeing the entire operation. So, good for them. We also get to see there's one more villain left, and that is the High-End Nomu. As you guys can see, apparently all of the heroes in the area are perfectly fine. Obviously generic heroes, but we do see Ingenium, he's still kicking butt. He actually led the charge on the attack on the High-End Nomu once Dabi was down. Of course, begs the question, what was the High-End Nomu doing? What was everyone else doing? Apparently they're supposed to be defeated, but they're not defeated. I don't know, just a little weird that all the while the Todorokis were battling it out, these guys weren't doing anything else. Either way, they ended up actually securing the area very easily. You guys can see here, this is actually a picture of the heroes with villains in custody. I'm assuming all of the villains are the ones tied up, and there's a good amount of them too. We do see some other heroes, I suppose, like the girl on the very bottom. She looks like she might be a hero. She might be injured. We do see a couple other guys laying down as well. But again, generic people, generic characters. We don't really get any insight to who these people are. But they do feel lucky that they were able to secure their area pretty easily. And then we go to the HQ. Little celebration here, saying they're cheering, they're happy. Obviously, everything's going great so far. All Might has some tears for Shoto, and he's thankful. I would think, in my mind, he's thankful that he survived. B, he was able to defeat Dabi. And then, of course, C, in a sense, Shoto was able to resolve the conflict for the Todoroki family, whereas Endeavor couldn't. So, just a lot of emotions running throughout the main characters, obviously. And then, of course, the police are all happy that we got an area secured. That's one front of 8 that's been done, that's cleared. I do have to say, though, like I mentioned in previous episodes, I didn't want to see multiple locations all at the same time, all throughout these episodes. I said last episode it worked okay, but this one, it's a little off, just because now we get the time frame of Todoroki's fight, and it kind of went, over a course of half an episode last time. However, everywhere else is still battling out their battles, so it's kind of going to be a little bit conflicting if we suddenly see, for example, but we also see in this episode Bakugo is fighting Tomura, right? Tomura's quirk, or his body, is going out of control, filling the coffin in the sky. It would be kind of weird if all of a sudden all the guys from the Kamino Ward area suddenly appear in the coffin in the sky, just because, right? It would just be kind of weird if they just suddenly got there, just instantaneously, almost like time has not gone by in the coffin in the sky. So I'm a little concerned about that going forward, things like that, time issues. But overall, if this is the resolution for that location during this war arc, and of course then we will resume it later on in time, then I'm totally fine by it. I think it's we get one of the locations out of the way real quick, and it was an important one. Dabi was one of the biggest enemies that they wanted to take down, and they did. So there is something about it, though, that is a little bit fishy. We also get to see the aftermath this is actually later in the episode, but I just wanted to partner it up right here just to continue the talk about the Kamino Ward area. Obviously, we can see, for example, Burn is still hurt. Everyone else is injured. They're tending to their wounded. The high-end Nomu was taken down. I don't know how. Obviously, that happened off screen. A little disappointing because they're supposed to be really strong. Like, really strong. And none of the heroes here are actually at a level in which they can take on the high-end Nomu. Obviously, strength and numbers probably played a huge part in this battle. But, for people like Endeavor, Mirko, they had hard trouble just taking on a couple. So just to see that all these generic heroes took on one, it's kind of weird. Just a little bit. But it is what it is. We also get to see Shoto's face. He and Enjin have a hugging moment, and Shoto's like apologizing to him, saying, during this attack, he must have shorted out Enjin's engine. And he's like, why are you apologizing? He's like, don't worry about that. You just got your ass whooped, and you took down your brother, of all people, and you just saved everybody in this area. Like, why are you apologizing? You're the one who just saved everybody. And if you guys can look closely at Todoroki's face, he actually teared up. And as soon as his tears came out, you can see there's one tear going down his cheek. It froze up, and then of course the tears in his eyes are actually frozen as well. I'll be honest, that must hurt. But we have this touching moment between them. It's like, my goodness, like, we just went through hell and back, and it's like, why are you apologizing? You just saved everybody. And it's just a really nice moment, especially amongst classmates. Obviously, these are the only two I think in this area. They haven't shown any other classmates if there were any. But then we also get to see that in the background, you guys can see in the bottom left picture, Dobby is over there being lifted up, and he is completely starting to be completely frozen. However, we get this at the end. This is clearly Dobby's hair, but his chest as well is emitting this purple light. Now, what this purple light is, we actually don't get to find out. This is actually where the communal ward ended its scenes for this episode, and I would not be surprised if it does pick up in the next one. Maybe like a cliffhanger moment for the next episode. We don't know. Either way, Dobby does seem unconscious, if anything, and he is defeated at this moment. So we'll see what this purple light is. Maybe it's all for one with, maybe it's like a bomb like Lady Nagant had. Who knows? We will find out later. So moving on, though, we get to see more battlefields. Here we go. I also have the captions on so you guys can see the names of the locations. Top left, Jaku Hospital Ruins. That is where Gigantomakia. See, I can never say that name perfectly. That is where he is being held. That is where he was, put to sleep, and they have built a structure over him, holding him inside. And obviously, you guys can see that is one of the locations for the war arc. Top right is the Takoba National Stadium. Why is this the location? Not really sure. Probably just because it has a big wide area for battle. And then bottom left, of course, the coffin in the sky. You guys can see Tomura expanding still inside of the coffin. And then in the bottom right, in front of the central hospital, that is where Kurogiri is being held, and that's where we also find out that the villains are attacking to try and release him. And I'll get back to that in just a moment. So going to the Jaku Hospital Ruins, we actually get to immediately see Pinky as the first hero on site. We get to see her in action, of course, and then she relays the message that she's excited, everyone's happy, that Todoroki had taken down Dobby and, secured the Camino Ward location. That is one big step for the heroes, and obviously the villains are losing. And of course, it is their job here to make sure that Gigantomakia doesn't get released. And so they're pumped, they're hyped, the energy is starting to soar throughout them. We also get to see Mountain Lady, who I have been mentioning for the past few episodes, is just missing in action. She is actually here, as I expected. As I mentioned in the past episodes, that Gigantomakia was probably going to be one of their targets. Obviously, as we see, it is one of the villain targets, and of course, she has to be here because she's the only one who is strong enough to be able to actually hold him back even just a little bit. So to me, it was no surprise that she is here, and I am excited. I am happy to see that she is actually taking part in the battle. And she even mentions that she I mentioned the last video of the flashback, how she said to the kids that, they have to have special moves and make sure that people know them by those moves. And she even plainly says that she's happy and she likes that kid, speaking about Shoto. So really nice moment to see her again. But yeah, as far as the other heroes here as well, we also get to see, obviously, like I said, Pinky's here. Grape Juice, going from the middle to the left, is Emily, Rule, and Mudman. And then, of course, in just a moment, we also have Red Riot. Because, wherever Pinky or Red Riot goes, the other one goes too. Because, let's be honest, they're a couple. So, we also get to see that there's a villain here who apparently was part of the Paranormal Liberation Front Army. And they were one of the ones who actually ended up killing Midnight. If you guys remember, Midnight was part of the other attack on the Gunga Villa, and she died. She gave her last orders to Kreti to take down Gigantomakia with the other classmates, and in that moment, they thought she was still alive, but it was revealed later that she did die. And this villain just plainly says that they will kill all of these heroes here, just like that UA teacher. And we also get a small snippet of showing Midnight's mask on the ground, and Pinky overheard him say that, and of course that definitely struck a nerve with her. I know that Crazy and Pinky probably even Grape Juice too, because obviously he's a pervert, but we know that, right? But Pinky and Crazy both had a very special, close connection to Midnight, as far as, A, they're female heroes, and then B, they've worked closely with them in the past. So it really struck a nerve for Pinky, and she definitely lost her concentration as soon as she heard this villain speak, not her Midnight's name, but mentioned that she died basically by their hands. His hands, if anything. She actually lost focus and was almost attacked from behind. Red Riot comes in and saves her, of course, naturally. And then, of course, they go in and work together. And from this picture, we see only the two of them. But Red Riot does say, everyone, let's do this, because Todoroki has inspired them to, try and win their location. And we see a horde of villains in the distance coming at them. So that's how this location ended. Nothing too special, obviously. Like I said before, we don't want to see every location happening at the same time, but it was nice to see that we got to, see which heroes are at certain locations, who is involved, and what's going on. So this was one of those places that was not actually shown yet. It was just mentioned that the villains could come here, and of course they did. So it was nice to see that we get a little snippet of what's happening over here and who is involved. And then, of course, never mind. I lost my train of thought. In any case, so we also moved back into the location where All For One had first come out to meet with Deku and Aoyama. And still here is Fat Gum. He is in charge of the location. As you guys can see from the top right picture, there are some heroes and villains battling each other. Of course, like I said, generic heroes and villains all over the place. Just the way the war arc goes, right? But there's a lot of these purple flowers everywhere, and it's kind of a mystery how these things are playing a part. In the top left picture, you guys can see there's a flower, in fact, growing on Fat Gum's back. I have no idea what that means. I have no idea what these flowers are doing. We have no idea at this point what this villain does in the bottom of the screen. He is a mystery. His name is Kunieda, and that's pretty much it. That's all we know. But he is apparently an assassin that works for All For One. But I'm looking forward to see what he does, because there's a lot of giant flowers literally growing everywhere around this area, and he obviously dissected the heroes' plans as well, noting that the heroes had separated all of the other villains and stuff to different locations, just based on what he's observed. So interesting to see what's happening here, but obviously I think, if I'm honest, this is probably my least interested battle. I'm not really going to focus too much on what's happening here, because let's be honest, Aoyama is not exactly the brightest character. He did have his moment this season, of course, and of course Fat Gum as well. He's had a moment in the past seasons, but overall, the heroes that are left here aren't exactly people we want to be focusing on, because these guys are not like the main characters, nor the main villains. Speaking of main villains, though, we do go to Spinner, and he is at the Central Hospital trying to free Kurogiri. And based on what we're seeing here, he has transformed himself somehow. He is now much larger, and of course, based on what we're seeing, he is more monster-like. Obviously, he was a heteromorph, lizard guy, but he was average human size, and now he's this giant monster that has immense strength and power, and is wielding his weapon with immense force. We also get to see the heroes involved here as well. At this hospital is Anima and Tentacool, as you guys can see in the top left corner. Those are from Class A, or Class 1A. And then, of course, the police officer Gori, who was in the last episode, who was talking to Dr. Garaki. And then Rocklock, Pro Hero. The black Pro Hero, if you guys remember who he was. Again, not the strongest or most important heroes are here. I do feel like this is, one of the weaker battles as well. However, you guys can see in the bottom left corner all the villains under Spinner's control. They are all heteromorphs of various kinds, and that is the whole point of this section. This whole battle here is that Spinner literally gained control of all the heteromorphs in the villain's control. All for One literally made him the leader of this area. And from this scene, we also get to see insight that how Spinner got his power. All for One gave him a quirk. Apparently, it's some kind of quirk that makes him a monster-like giant. It's not really explained. However, we just know that All for One does give him a quirk of his own, and does turn him, much larger and into a monster. And what we're actually seeing here is Spinner's looking at Dabi as he leaves, because Dabi's like, he doesn't need another quirk, he doesn't need extra power, he has all that he needs to take down Endeavor or Shoto or whoever he goes up against in the next, in the war arc. And so as Dabi's leaving, Spinner's kind of jealous. He is very jealous that Dabi has the power to do what he can do, and believes that Dabi is on a whole nother level, and he wants to be like that as well. Now, I have a little concern about Spinner and his character. Is he follows Tomura and he wants what's best for him. However, he's been kind of in like a Star Wars sense, falling to the dark side even more, and just letting All for One control him, by any means necessary. And I'm a little disappointed because Spinner does seem like he has good morals as far as knowing what's good and what's bad, as far as what's going what do I want to try to say here, like going beyond the lines of this is necessary or not necessary. And I feel like this is a little bit of a letdown that he just kind of gives himself up to All for One and lets him take control of his entire body. And so now he is this giant monster that is now going to be, doing his bidding and basically, leading an army, which I don't think is in his character necessarily, but at the same time, these villains are also in the same way that he is, and they feel discriminated against by the pro heroes, and therefore that's also why they've all banded together to fight for All for One. So, not a big surprise, but at the same time, I'm a little disappointed that Spinner's like this. But, it is what it is. And then, of course, we move on to the final location, besides the coffin in the sky. By the way, just to recap for the coffin in the sky, they only showed Bakugo in this episode. He just said, yeah, of course Todoroki did it. Good job. But, of course, since I named out the heroes from the other locations, I'll just give you guys a reminder for the coffin in the sky. Bestigenus is there, Edshot, Mirko, Sun Eater, Nejire-chan, Bakugo, Mandalay, Manuel, Eraserhead, and Phantom Thief. They're all there. And of course, Deku was supposed to be there, but he's not. So, that was a short, yeah, good job, Todoroki, he did it. And then we moved on to, the final location here at the Gunga Villa ruins, where All for One and Endeavor were transported. And we get to see what's happening here for the rest of the episode, which is actually half of the episode. All for One is standing off against Endeavor and Hawks in the sky, and all the while he shows up with 5 quirks in his hand. What these quirks do, we actually do find out. However, they're kind of creepy. I mean, look at that one on his finger that has a face on it poking out of his fingertip. Like, that is just creepy. Like, what is this? Where's this anime going? These are quirks, right? These are not just supernatural powers that he just got from willy-nilly anywhere, right? these are actual quirks that he stole from people and is now using them for his own benefit. So that means someone in the world had a quirk that makes these creepy face creature thingies, I don't know, out of their bodies. And that is kind of disturbing. Now, obviously, he may have had some kind of enhancements to his body as well, but that still doesn't explain exactly why this quirk particularly has a face on it. I think that's absolutely disgusting. But to see that he has 5 quirks on his hand, that is actually kind of cool. That does go to show, hey, he is actually very powerful, and that's only with one hand. We actually have no idea how many quirks he has in his control. We also get to learn that the whole plan for the heroes here is the fact that All For One apparently can't live without his mask. We also get to see in a flashback that Stain also informed them about was that All For One needed the mask on at all times, including when they freed all the prisoners at the Tartarus prison. And so at all times he has to have his mask on to sustain himself, which we don't know if that's 100% true, but based on what we're seeing, we can dictate that. And of course it was planned out by Best Jeanist and Endeavor and Hawks in a secret meeting. So if that is the case, that is the whole reason why they brought All For One out here, and we'll have the strongest heroes being able to engage him. Now, obviously, the strongest heroes at this point in time is indeed Hawks and Endeavor. However, is that enough to take out All For One? Personally, I would not even think so, because they couldn't even take out Tomura before. So what makes them think they can do it now? I don't really know what the mindset behind this is. However, we do get to see that the whole plan is to have them try and destroy his mask, not necessarily destroy him. If they can take out the mask, then they can take out All For One entirely. At least that's what I'm getting at. So, of course, we have the dynamic duo of Hawks and Endeavor working together, just like before. They're going to fight together, and All For One is able to use just his one hand of quirks to basically block all their attacks and not take any damage. He is completely unharmed as far as the episode was going along, blocking everything, including Endeavor's I forget what the move he used was called, but you guys can see in the picture these giant flaming fists just constantly bashing down on this whatever that green shield stuff is. Obviously it's some kind of, I don't know, ooze. I wouldn't even say it's like a slime, but it's like an ooze that takes a hardened form. Again, another quirk that someone once had that he is now using. Now, how does it work? We don't really know, because literally in just a moment after Endeavor had finished smashing his fist into it, it started melting. So it has to be very heat resistant to survive all those punches, and yet very strong enough not to be broken down by Hawks' feathers. So it was interesting to see. Well, it was a cool sequence of attacks by both the heroes, and of course defense by All For One. We also get to see more insight into Endeavor's mind, and Hawks is believing that at this moment in time, Endeavor is still holding back a little bit. He is not at 100% focus mode here, and he is still thinking about Dabi. And of course, now that the information has been relayed that, Shoto has taken out Dabi, Endeavor is starting to second guess himself, thinking like he's not strong enough. It was his duty to take care of Dabi, not Shoto's, and yet that's in the back of his mind, even though they had discussed it in the last episode on a phone call, saying that it's not his duty, it's the whole Todoroki family's duty to work together. But obviously that is not the case. In his mind, he still thinks bad about what happened in the past, and that actually leads to him. Same thing what happened with Pinky. He lets his guard down, but in his case, he went for like a one final punching attack, which leaves himself very vulnerable to All For One, who has been very strategic up to this point. And he finds an opening, uses his quirk, another quirk, I should say, to just suddenly bite through a big chunk of Endeavor's right side. So we can see here a whole piece of his side is bitten off, and he is totally injured. Endeavor cannot sustain himself. He is totally out of focus now, thinking on what, how he could have resolved his Todoroki family issue, but now he can't do anything. So as he's falling, Hawks believes that in this case he needs to save Endeavor. He needs to brace his fall with his feathers. Without Endeavor's fire attacks, which are the strongest attacks I guess any of the heroes have at this given point, there's no way to beat All For One. And so he does risk his feathers to save Endeavor, but it left him open for an attack. And that's when Earphone Jack comes in on the back of Tsukuyomi no less, and blocks All For One's attack from destroying Hawks entirely. And I thought this was a really cool moment. At first I was, there's no way for me to actually seen this coming. But if we do look back from a few episodes ago when all the heroes and villains were separated, we do see that Tsukuyomi was here. He was transported here as well. And I don't remember seeing Earphone Jack here as well, but either way, they're here and they were able to use Earphone Jack's sound waves to protect Hawks from damage. And of course, Hawks was able to successfully rescue Endeavor as well and gently press him down to the ground. We also get to see this little funny scene as well of Earphone Jack saying she's barely hanging on to Tsukuyomi because he's not exactly like wearing a saddle or anything. He's just wearing his coat, and he's like, please don't move your behind too much, because she's wobbling on top of his back. And let's be honest, he's not exactly the biggest character, so the fact that he is flying and she's sitting on him, it's like, he's very small and skinny, so it's not much room to be hanging on to. And he's like, please don't move your behind too much, it's making me flustered. And it's like, yeah, that's the thing to say right now. Because it's kind of embarrassing. But anyway, it's just a nice little comic relief for the moment. And then of course we get this nice, excellent shot of Earphone Jack and her confidence boasting out to All For One that she's here, they did something great and they're going to kick his butt. And I have to say, throughout the entire episode, they had a lot of really good shots of the characters. And I showed it earlier too. Mountain Lady making her appearance, stomping down on those villains. I thought that was an excellent shot of, showing how big she is compared to everyone else and what she's doing. There was another shot of Pinky when the scene first changed over to the hospital ruins. I thought she also had a really good shot. I didn't show it in this video, but just overall, there's quite a bit of characters that had really good headshots. And I thought for sure, like this one, for example, was a really nice shot, especially for characters who don't usually, get the spotlight. I know that Jiro had her moment for the UA festival, but at the same time, this is like the first time we're really seeing her in the heat of battle and is really taking action. And so I thought this was a really good shot of her showing up as well. But we also, we have to move on and see what else is happening here. And we also get to see that Endeavor's injured. Like I said, he got a big chunk of his side bitten out by that quirk. Again, another monster quirky thing. Again, that came from somebody. It's not just All For One using, body mutations and stuff. That quirk literally came from somebody, so it's kind of weird. But either way, Endeavor's down. He's bleeding out right now. A big chunk of his body is missing. And stated by Hawks, he did miss Endeavor's. All For One missed Endeavor's lungs, so he is able to get up eventually and probably rejoin the battle. However, it's just a matter of whether or not that injury is going to keep him down and for how long. So, as of right now, he's still not focused. He's still, thinking about Shoto and how he took down Dabi, and it should have been his duty. but unfortunately that he's got to put that aside and try and get back into the battle. So in the meantime, Hawks, he's trying to tell Tsukuyomi and Earphone Jack to run, just get out of here. Kids don't belong here. This is not a battle for them. They will die if they stay. And he said that actually, I think 2 to 3 times. But then eventually saying that, or Tsukuyomi said that, they can work with him. Let them help because they can do it. They can work with him, especially since Tsukuyomi actually did work with Hawks as his, under his, I forget what it was called. A few seasons ago, they were doing the pro heroes and the students who were joining them on small missions and stuff. Provision license, I think that's what it was. And Tsukuyomi was the only one who went under Hawks, and so they've worked together before. And so now that he saved his life just now, and then he saved his life actually before at the Gunga Villa before it was destroyed in the last season. And so now Hawks has a lot more respect for his pupil, and he says now in this moment, please help me again. And he calls Tsukuyomi hero. Obviously, he's probably also referring to Earphone Jack too, but obviously it's the one-on-one bond between the two bird-like heroes, and he gives, just like we've seen in the past with other characters, he is giving recognition to Tsukuyomi that he is a hero. So I thought that was a really special moment. I actually kind of teared up a little, oh, lovely, absolutely lovely, because I want to see all of our, student heroes now becoming pro heroes, because they are the guys on the front lines, whereas, for example, other pro heroes have retired because they don't want to be ridiculed. Other pro heroes who are just generic heroes, they died or just aren't strong enough. And these students who are 16-year-old students, they are now becoming pro heroes and are on the front lines of battle. So the fact that the main pro heroes are calling them heroes is just absolutely amazing. All the while, All For One is actually contemplating what needs to be done. And he realizes since Dabi's been defeated, the heroes have done actually a really good job organizing this attack, this ambush that he thought he was getting the ambush on. So he says that he can't let anything happen to Tomura. Therefore, he can't waste any more time. He needs to finish this fight and then get to wherever Tomura is and help him out. And so that is where we start to see more of his quirks come out. As you guys can see from this picture, his arm starts to mutate into some thing. I don't really know what it is exactly, but in just a moment we get to see this 3-headed monster come out of him, and he starts to target the weakest link, the person, or the ones that he feels like will end the result of Hawks having to save them. And unfortunately, Earphone Jack is the weakest link here. She has almost no true battle experience as far as the main villains, and so All For One does target her with this giant mouth monster thing. Holy crap, that thing is freaking terrifying. If I was her, just like her right now, I'd be frozen with fear. That is freaking scary. However, Hawks comes in with his feathers. As you guys can see, there's some red lines surrounding her. That's not her shirt being ripped up. That's actually feathers from Hawks. He uses his feathers to save her. He carries her off of Tsukuyomi, and he gets to safety as well. But she is safe in the air and rescued by Hawks. The 3-headed monster stuff missed and didn't kill her. So that was nice. But she definitely got to see the fear of the actual battle, and she actually mentions that. Which, by the way, her face, I don't know why they couldn't have drawn a better face for her, because she is scared. She said that her goosebumps couldn't even react in time. She is absolutely terrified right now. And that's the face she's making. Kind of weird. But overall, she was basically saying that, she's terrified, and this is the stuff that Deku and Aoyama have been going through, what they've been going up against. And this is the first time that she's experiencing it, and she is completely terrified. So, All For One then, you guys can see in the top left picture, he forms this weird monster ball thing, and we're like, what is happening here? And then, of course, it forms this giant cannon that is literally targeting Tsukuyomi and Earphone Jack. And as you guys can see by the size of it, there is nothing they can do to dodge this. Like, that is an insane growth that he just created, and I was like, what even is that? And Hawks comes in. I circled it here on the bottom left corner. His feathers actually come in to save them. He doesn't actually go for them specifically, but he actually goes and pushes the cannon out of the way, and resulting in the cannon totally missing. And you guys can see the size of it. I mean, that is an incredible blast of energy. Again, this is another quirk, I suppose, obviously probably mixed in with his other quirks that he is in control of. But whatever these quirks are, they're enhancing his abilities exponentially. And it's like, this is what he's capable of. He's able, I mean, if he really wanted to, he could destroy like cities all over Japan if he wanted to. So this is an incredible amount of energy being released here. And then we also see that they did not get out of the way entirely. Tsukuyomi's injured. I don't exactly know where he got injured. I didn't see clear-cut injuries, but we also get to see Hawks has been restrained. Because he used his feathers to push the cannon, his focus was not entirely on himself, and therefore All For One was able to restrain him just a little bit. And then, of course, Earphone Jack and Tsukuyomi did get hit by that laser. I don't know how, like I said, I don't know where Tsukuyomi technically got injured. There is no clear evidence of how he got injured here. But we do see that Earphone Jack is injured. Now again, this is obviously, a fairly rated anime, right? It's not going to show anything wrong or pervert or anything. We can see that her jacket got clipped. So I'm sorry to say, but her shirt should be ripped off as well. I mean, this is an energy laser thing that just pierced the sky. Somehow Tsukuyomi is injured and bleeding from his mouth. So how in the world is Jiro, not exactly, stripped? I don't know. Either way, we get to see up close here in this scene, once again, and I don't want to say it, but a beautiful shot, a beautiful animated shot of her ear completely ripped off. Blood is just spewing from the side of her head. She is clearly in a lot of pain, and her left ear, her earphone jack, is actually torn off completely. That is not blood splatter. Actually, you can actually see it from the previous picture here. It is completely blown off. It is in the bottom picture, top right corner. It is blown off, and it is going flying. And that right here is how the episode ended. Played the end credits, and we gotta wait till next week to find out what happens. But All For One clearly stated that he's going to, make them pay for going against a demon lord such as himself, and this is the result of what happens when you mess with him. And unfortunately, like we've seen in the past, Earphone Jack's not exactly the best, they're the strongest hero, but she is trying to do her part. Unfortunately, is she a match for All For One? Obviously, that is not the case. And I mentioned in past videos, we want to see some of the students fail. We want to see the heroes fail. And this could be one of those moments where, hey, we might actually see a student die in the long run. I was thinking that Todoroki was going to die, but he's okay. But yeah, going against All For One, the big baddie, you never know. And in this moment, Earphone Jack lost one of her jacks. So she is literally at half capacity at this point. I don't know if she's able to regrow her ear in any fashion. I don't remember anything from the past seasons saying that it's possible to do that. So I'm assuming that this whole scene, the way it ended, is an indication that she has now lost one of her ears, and that's one of her strengths. Her whole quirk is, deals with her ears, her earphone jacks, and without one of them, that's just a huge detriment to not just herself but her quirk entirely. Just like how Eraserhead is actually missing an eye, he's only at half capacity. His quirk isn't as strong as it used to be. So the fact that she's missing an ear now means that she's probably going to be only at 50%, if at all. So it was a disappointing to see moment. Obviously, we feel bad for her. Again, that's why she could have been one of the other heroes of the episode for saving Hawks, but obviously Hawks had to save her twice, including just now for Tsukuyomi as well. But overall, another great episode. I really enjoyed this one a lot. I was a little disappointed in the beginning because it was a just straight up recap of what happened at the end of the last episode. So it did take a minute away, and then of course the credits. So this episode turned out to be like 19 minutes, if so. Very short. But overall, we got a lot of information, a lot of hero appearances, and just like the episode title, extras. As it says, it's extras. It's showing off what's happening everywhere else. Deku's not the only one we're going to focus on. And, we got to see a lot of people. And again, that's one of the things about this show that is both good and bad. I love that there's a lot of characters. And they are very unique. In an anime where all the characters have superpowers, all these quirks, it's great because they're all unique. But it's hard to remember all of them. And even I have a hard time remembering every single hero. But I do try my best to, memorize them in my head as much as I can, especially for the ones I do like. But yeah, for like class 1B, for example, I'm not going to remember every single hero from that class. But they are taking part in this battle. So it is in my best interest to see, who's involved and what they're doing. And unfortunately, we haven't seen everybody yet, so I don't know if everyone's involved. But, there's still plenty of episodes to go and still plenty of, battles to fight. And I can't wait to see what happens next week. My expectation is we're going to obviously see what happens to Earphone Jack and Tsukuyomi. Are they going to die in this moment? Is Endeavor going to get up and fight? Is Hawks going to die? I'm kind of wondering what's going to happen here. They should resume with this battle, if not conclude it. I hope they actually do conclude it, and I'm assuming that All For One will escape. Either way, it will be interesting to see what happens next. And then, of course, now that they showed the other battle locations, I wouldn't mind seeing what happens to Gigantomachia in that location, because he does play a huge part. I mean, he is one of those monsters that couldn't be stopped. The only reason he was stopped was because Creati made an aesthetic that was able to knock him out. But without that, and she is not there, what will they do if he goes out of control? Again, if you guys have read ahead in the manga, you guys actually know what happens. I was spoiled to it, so that sucks. But at the same time, I won't spoil what happens here. I'm going to wait and see how it's actually animated, makes its way from the manga to the anime itself, because again, we are only watching the anime here and reviewing what happens by the episode. I wish I wasn't spoiled, but I was, so that sucks. To all you guys who spoil other people's fun, please don't. It sucks. Otherwise, that's it for the episode. Overall, it was a really good one. Not the best or anything like that, but I did enjoy seeing all the characters. Whenever we get to see the other characters from the anime, it's always a good thing. Keeps the audience involved and alert of, you gotta stay on top of who is involved, who's here, who's there. I have to make all these sticky notes just to keep myself in check to see, oh yeah, okay, all these people are here, all these people are over there. It's a lot of information, but I do my best. And if I do miss anybody, or if I, mispronounce someone's name or whatever, do forgive me. Like I said, there's a lot of people involved. But overall, like I said, great episode. If I had to rate it, probably give this one probably a 7. The reason I give this one a 7 out of 10 is because, like I said, some inconsistencies might play a part in future episodes going forward, like the time frames from where Shoto and Injin finished their fight. If I see any of those people just suddenly pop up at a different location, then it's kind of inconsistent. It's like, how did the time flow from battle to battle and they're fine all of a sudden, right? Obviously, I don't think that's going to be the case, because obviously something's up with Dabi still, but you never know. Obviously, the quick movement from each battle, like I said, I didn't want to see multiple battles all over the place, but at the same time, I think they did this pretty well. They spaced out really well. They didn't really have to show the coffin in the sky scene. It literally took up a good 10-15 seconds of the episode. They didn't need to do that. I'm pretty sure Bakugo can't really care in the moment, or at least he shouldn't be. He should be focusing on Tomura, not hearing what Todoroki is doing. And then, of course, just showing off the locations. Like I said, the Kunieda, the flowered villain. What is he doing, right? We didn't need to see that, I don't think. It was just kind of a waste of time. Instead of showing what's happening there with him and Fat Gum, I would rather see a little bit more of what's happening with Earphone Jack and Tsukuyomi, and how are they going to die? Are they in trouble? The lost time that we had from seeing some of the other stuff, we could have seen on what happened to them, or even more dialogue or flashbacks. Anything to progress the story, not just show off, hey, these guys are still here, don't forget. We know that they are there. We don't need to be reminded every time. So, that's just my thoughts. Like I said, this episode had a lot of great shots of the characters. Really good character designs all around. The sets as well. I thought everything looked really clean. I also wanted to point out, by the way, after the opening, after they announced the episode and they played the main theme, the My Hero Academia song, not song, but music. Oh, perfect music choice to lead into the Jaku Hospital Ruins battle. Absolutely loved it. The music in this anime is just phenomenal, and that's just another one of those examples where it was great transition and great music placement. So I thought that was phenomenal. Just like last episode, how the music was playing for the Todorokis, and it wasn't like action-packed music. It was calm and serene. The piano playing. I thought it was actually well done. Perfect piece for the moment, because it's not a huge, impactful battle or anything like that. It's actually more of a serene moment. The brothers not bonding, but how do they break these bonds of family and go against one another? And so I thought that was really well done. Just like this episode, the music, it helps convey a huge message of inspiration. And I thought that was the whole point of this episode, is just to get us caught up on what's happening everywhere else. And basically, Todoroki's fight inspires everyone else around him. So overall, like I said, great episode. Can't wait for next week. But that's it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, hit the like button. Comment down below what you guys thought. Do you agree or disagree with what I had to say? And of course, subscribe to the channel for more content. Stay tuned for the next episode. I heard, actually, I don't know if it's true, I heard that next week doesn't have another episode. I could be wrong. I have to double check that for my own sake. But if it's not next week, I'll see you guys the week after. Either way, I can't wait to see what happens next, and I hope you guys can't wait either. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys have a great day, week, 2 weeks, whatever it may be, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.